Welcome to using Dynamo with Python using the Revit Lookup tool. So the Revit Lookup tool is created by Jeremy and it's on his GitHub and you can download it, but even better, Boost Your BIM has created an installation for it. So you can go to this website, get the installation and just install it for yourself. The really important thing about the Revit add-in is that it allows you to access all the metadata from the Revit. So here you can kind of see how it's structured. So I just grabbed the selection and you can see that there's a name, and this is kind of how it would work. You'd get the element.name, element.id, element .view owner view ID, and the really other great thing is you can get all the parameters and its values, what the storage type is like. They're either strings, and the really great thing that I love is the fact that the built-in parameters are also available and all the metadata that's captured with them. The developers, when they created Revit, the way they named the built-ins aren't exactly the same way we work in Revit. So this is really great. So this is pretty simple. I'm just grabbing 4 walls, nothing special, and just importing the CLR using a Python node. I'll go ahead and get the add reference from the Revit API. And I'll go ahead and import from Autodesk, and then from Autodesk Revit, get the database, and I'll just grab everything. That's what the asterisk means. I'll go ahead and add the Revit service, and from the import from the Revit services, I'll just go ahead and grab everything as well. So the Revit services.persistent, the document manager will allow me to get the current document that I'm working with, or the Revit file that I'm working with. The transaction will allow me to do any manipulation of it. So I'll just go ahead and add that. And the first thing I'll do is I'll just grab the document that I'm working with. From here I'll call it document manager, and I'll get the instance of the current database that I'm working with, or database document. So the first input that I'm bringing in from my my flow will be of elements. They'll be the walls that I'm working with. So I'll go ahead and unwrap them, and unwrap them allows me to actually work with them inside this Python node. So I'll just go ahead and grab the first in, and it's the 0. So this will be the out, and it's a list. It's my list. It's not the official out, so it's lowercase. And what I'll send out will be for each one of the elements, I'll call them E, and then inside there I'm going to create another list for all the parameters. So I'll iterate over each one of those and add the parameter, send it to the out. So each one of them will get a captured thing. So here's the great part. So I've gone ahead and got the ID from the element, and the way this will work is that the ID is also corresponding to the element ID of the lookup tool. So if I want to get the name, I go .name, and it has to be it's case sensitive. So if you look on the right hand side, exactly what I want to get has to match that. So I'm looking for the width here. So I'll go ahead and grab the width, which is capital W. Capital W, width. Okay, so I have 3 parameters here. I got the ID, the name, and the width. So I have a list of parameters that I want to add to the parameter. That way they're captured for the ID. So I'll go ahead and append them, or add them to my empty parameter list, or the P list. So I'll go ahead and add all 3 of them. So here I want to see what it sends out. Give us a view. So when it sends it out, I want the little out to go to the big out. And here I'll just add all my parameters for each individual one of the parameters. I'll go ahead and add it to the out. That way each one of the elements gets its own parameter set. So there you go. and then I got an element ID, the type name, and the width. So the work set's an interesting one, and here's where what I think the lookup tool really becomes kind of a powerful thing. Um, the lookup tool will allow me to look into the database, right? So here we go. We go into the application, we go into the document, and see what the document allows us to kind of gather from Revit. And the one thing that's tricky is always getting a work set. So here's a work set table. And in the Revit API document, inside the work set table, the work set table is allowing you to get the work set. So you can actually get the work set, but what you need to feed it in is the work set ID. So now I got the work set, right, from the document. So I know the document has the work set. So now what I want to do is get the work set ID. So I need to find the work set ID in the element, right? So element dot work set ID, and you can see it up at the top. I'll go ahead and grab that work set ID and be able to send that into the document dot get work set table dot get work set, and then inside I'll send it in as a work set ID. So here we go. So there's the work set ID. To pull up the Python script here. So from the document, I'm going to get the work set table. Now this will give me all of them, all the work sets that I have in my project. And then I want to get a work set, right? So that was something we saw in the Revit document website, and I'll get from the element, I'm going to send in the work set ID. Now that'll fulfill what the get work set was, and then I want a readable human dot name. So this is kind of just, I think it's a very standard thing to get dot name, or else it'll give me a number. So here we go. So I'll just append that work set in there, and I'll go ahead and run it. And there I get the work set. So all the walls are structural walls, so they're all struck. So the built-in parameters are really fascinating because the naming convention is always a bit different than what we assume if we do a lot of work in Revit. So what it has all the built-in names, and in here there's a lot of metadata that you can actually use. So here I'm going to look for what will be I think the curve length will be a good one here. So there you can either get it as a double, meaning numbers, or as a string, meaning just text. So I'll just grab it as text. There's other things as volume and all these other. So here's hosted volume, which is computed, and you can actually get it as a double or as a string. So what I'll do is I'll just grab my my Dynamo script here, and I'll grab those two items. So they're all coming from that element. So what I'll do is I'll grab the length. So this time, instead of going to the document, I'm actually going to go to the element get parameter. So I'm going to get this parameter, and it's a built-in parameter, remember, and these built-in parameters are always difficult to come across. They're not always the same way you would see them in Revit. So what it is the curve underscore element underscore length, and they're always uppercase. So here I'm going to get the storage type, which would actually as value string. Now this will give me a text. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the volume. So the volume is the element. I'm going to get the parameter, and then again I'm going to get the built-in parameter. These are more stable. I always like the built-in parameters. If you're able to get the built-in parameters, go for it. They're more stable. So the host volume computed, we'll get it, and we'll go ahead and grab it as a double. So I'll go ahead and add these. Oops. Yeah, I gotta add these. This hand's faster than my mouth. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and append these to my parameter. So length, and then I'll just go ahead and add the volume, and then we'll get one of them's text. So you'll get text and then volume, depending on what you want to do with your flow in Dynamo. So the very last thing that I think is kind of was one of the more kind of difficult parts was the fact that sometimes some of these things don't actually want to give you the as string, as double, because they have this piece of it that has a storage type, and in Dynamo you consistently get this storage type none sent to you, and the way that you want to get this storage type is to ask it first what type of storage type it is. Now here it's going to ask you that it's going to tell you it's an element ID, and once it tells you it's an element ID, then you're able to kind of say, okay, now I've kind of bypassed the guard. I can grab the values in there. So the way that we're going to do this, I'm going to get the base level. And we saw that the storage type is element ID. And this is one of the parameters that will give you that error. So what I'll do is I'll get the element, get parameter, and then again I'll get the built-in parameter. And we'll go ahead and get the wall underscore base underscore constraint. So this will give us the level, the base level, or the level that it's with, it's associated to. So what I want to do is I want to check the level parameter, and the level parameter. So the first thing we'll do, I'll send in the parameter that I want to check, and then I'm going to see what type of storage it's holding, right? So this will allow me to see if it's an element ID, a string, or a double, and then extract that that data out of it. So here I'm going to see if the storage type, which I saw, was holding an element ID. But then when what I want to bring out is the value of the parameter, and I want to do the as value as a string. So I want text out of it. I don't want the element ID. I want the text, and then I want to return it to my definition. So here I have my parameter. What I'll do is the definition that I have built above, I will get it by checking the parameter. So I'm going to call it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send in the base level parameter that I grab. This way it'll check to see what kind of storage it's got, and then send me back the value, which I want is the add string value. And then I'll go ahead and append it to my parameters, which would then send it to my out, which collects everything and then send it out. There you go, level, everything. So anyways, for more Revit API, Dynamo, Python, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you again.